You can learn how to increase your consumption of fruits and vegetables, choose foods that are relatively inexpensive and good to eat, make your food dollars last longer, prepare quick, nutritious meals, help your children learn how to eat healthier snacks, and much more. Our program is committed to helping people like you improve your health through providing research-based nutrition education in a friendly, cost-free, and relaxed environment. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of the Weekly Business Hour. Glad to have you here. We're broadcasting live from the studios of Lone Star Community Radio, which is located literally in downtown Conroe, Texas, Montgomery County, and we're right here on the first floor of City Hall coming to you today. So we're right in the middle of the business that's going on here in Montgomery County. Lone Star Community Radio, what's it about? It's a nonprofit community radio station. Community radio became popular back in the late 30s, early 40s. A lot of small towns and cities wanted their own radio station. If you know anything about the beginning of radio, just like any technology, it started small, and places like Dallas and Chicago put in these AM stations and whatnot. The little towns established their own station. Their distance was probably to the edge of downtown. But if you ever drive through the Midwest, you can pick up community radio stations as you drive past or through different little towns. And what it is, truly the community. It's people in the community participating, doing the shows, producing, supporting the activities of their community radio station. And I invite you to join the community right here in Montgomery County. We have all volunteers connected with this station. We do shows. I'm a volunteer and I do a show. So if you're listening and you got an itch that you want to do some radio and you have a subject matter that makes sense to the management, then let's get you on the air, volunteer, and also, most importantly, please look to donate. Go to the webpage at www.irlonestar.com. That's irlonestar.com, and please consider to make a donation. A quick thought. I like to start the show with a quick thought, try to rev things up. Title, how do your numbers look in the coming year? We've just kicked off a new year, 2025. Hopefully you took some time, particularly in December, maybe even November, to put together a business plan, some projections, a budget, whatever it is that you use to successfully grow your business and increase revenue as well as profits. What do the numbers look like now? If you worked on them a month or two ago, maybe it's time to refresh, take another quick look at them. We're already almost halfway through the month of January, but what do they look like now that reality has come in and we've turned the page to a new year? First question I have for you, what kind of planning do you do? And again, I know I sound like a broken record up here, but I've got the microphone. You need to have some kind of plan. And you know, if you listen to the show regularly, I talk about a one-page business plan. So that for those that don't have a lot of background experience or don't want to invest a lot of time, we put together a simple one page. Many times these plans are needed by others, and they're the ones that sort of give you the nudge to do them. The bankers typically want some kind of business plan updated annually. Your accountant to help guide you, make sure you're going to have enough cash on hand to pay your bills, among other things. And in some companies, the employees are interested in the plan because they have bonuses that are tied to the business plan, the success of the entire company. So a good reason to do some planning. Question to you, are you projecting an increase or a decrease in revenue in 2025? So far, in my little survey that I do every time I meet a business person, I'm getting yeses, I'm getting nos, but predominantly yes, we are projecting an increase. And I think that's very important that you at least know whether you're going up or you're staying the same. What are your expectations? Because that's part of what gets you to the point you are in your revenue. What is your expectation? Up, down, stay the same. You need to set that expectation, and hopefully it is up. The other thing that I think people fail to look at when they think about their projections, particularly on the budget or revenue side, is what's going on in your industry. There's a lot of resources out there that are available, many on the internet, where you can check what's going on in your industry. There are organizations, national, local, statewide, and a lot of them post numbers. Here's the average business in our industry, da, da, da. Take a look at it. Know what the expectation is. And if you're really sly and want to put some time into it, you can find out what your competitors are projecting. All kinds of resources through a common supplier, even a banker will let things slip and give you an idea of what's going on with your competition. But that takes some real work. And the big question you have to ask when you look at someone else's projections, what are the basis for it? Are they bringing new product services on board? Are they doing something that kind of skews the revenue? In other words, revenue that's going to come from other sources than their current business as it was in 2024. Well, the weekly business hour is where Montgomery County and businesses now throughout the world come to talk about the latest in business news, ideas to improve your business, and to be part of conversations that can make a real difference in your business. And I think we're going to have one of those conversations today for you. We've got a wonderful guest in the studio now. And Robert, welcome to the studio.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And Robert Trembath is the CTO, Chief Technology Officer at AIO Integrations. AIO is an IT support company offering managed cybersecurity, managed CS, and IS services. Robert, you and I were joking before we went on the air about we could probably spend days talking about all the things that are happening or could happen in what I call the IT world, the business part of IT. One of the things we'll do, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to probably focus on cybersecurity. I mean, it's a popular topic, but as Robert and I have discussed in the past, it's always hiding, waiting to jump out and grab you and cause a lot of pain for you and your business. So we'll talk about cybersecurity and what it means to any business in today's world. But Robert, before we get started, could you give us an idea of what your business background is, a little history?
Sure, absolutely. I started in the business in 1991, so I've been doing it 34 years now. 20 plus of that has been in managing small businesses in their technology networks, basically anything to do with how their business operates. So that could be classed as email, network, file systems, you name it. The last 6 or 7 has been a particular focus in the world of cybersecurity. And I can tell you that the first 6 months I got into this, I actually had a little bit of a trouble sleeping at night. It's when you start digging into it and realizing, how much at risk we really are, not just as business owners, but in our personal lives day to day. It's a little scary, but a lot of it can be cured, and a lot of peace of mind can be had from just good habits. And when we meet with a lot of these, we go to a lot of these professional things with FBI and Homeland and big companies like IBM. Our big focus is always, how do we fix end users? How do we stop them from doing stupid things? So I dedicate a lot of my time to education.
Well, the thing that probably, if in the cybersecurity keeps me awake or thinking during the daytime, is what's new, what's going on that we don't even know about yet. Because the creativity piece of that world just seems endless. And they create new ways to burrow into your business or your personal life. It's pretty amazing. Every day it seems like there's always something, a little twist or turn that is a real threat.
it doesn't help that we have a lot of, just like we have media in the regular world that kind of misconstrues the truth or broadcasts its narrative, we have that same issue in our business as well. We have companies like, for instance, NordVPN, who pass themselves off as a cybersecurity company when they're really a VPN service. There are some benefits to VPNs when you are, out at an airport or a public place, but it doesn't prevent hackers from doing half of what they say it does, and they certainly can't protect you from real hackers. So and probably the biggest, I call it the myth, is that antivirus protects you from anything real. We actually have, that's one of the big things that's the lead in we do in almost all our education pieces. We call it, why are you still buying the myth? 9 out of 10 hackers get straight by. That doesn't even factor into how they get into us. It's kind of like, you're watching the front door of your house and you got your Ring going and you're looking at that front door, but you left all the windows and doors of the back of the house open. There's nobody watching that. And that's what hackers are doing, is they're using that back door. They're using our cloud services and our credentials to steal in. They don't care about the endpoint anymore. They're coming in through the back door. They're hiding. They stay there. They find out how bad to hurt you. And then, it's kind of like that burglar that sneaks in the back door, hides in the closet. You don't have a monitored alarm, which people is a big part of what we do. You can buy all the software you want, but if you're not watching what's going on in real time, you might as well be throwing that money out the door. It's just like a monitored alarm. If you got a monitor, you activate your alarm and you leave, and that burglar bypasses that alarm and gets into your house, which happens a lot. Basically, they're just hiding in there, waiting for you to leave, stealing all your stuff, and you come home and you go, what the hell just happened? It's the same way with computer networks, and it's basically how it's happening is they're just not watching the right doors.
Well, I have some sympathy and empathy for them because, as you and I've discussed, I've been around the IT business, actually owned a company in the IT service business. And 25 years ago, 30 years ago, when we were first into the business, actually building PCs, among other things, that's how dated it is, antivirus and things like that seem to really work. But as people and technology and the creativity, they become smarter. They know how to target, and a lot of people have, and the people I've run across in my life, a lot of business owners and personal, they believe that they've been selected. Well, my experience is you're not selected. I mean, they can go through and check out hundreds of thousands of opportunities in a blink of an eye, and they just find the weak ones, and then they go to work on it.
Actually, the campaigns that are gone out, they go out in the millions. Nobody's really being individually. They're targeting types of people a lot of times because some people are more vulnerable or more gullible than others. Elderly people are a big factor in that. People with handicaps, disabilities, they prey on the weak and the uninformed, and that's it. I mean, it's just the same way when you look at a common criminal. I'm a gun carrier, and when I was in my last trip to New Orleans, I was actually surprised by how much New Orleans has transformed. I was staying up by the waterfront in the Hyatt there, and as long as you're up on Canal Street, by where all the mainstream hotels and Caesars and all that, you're fine. But you start going down into the deeper parts of the quarter, it's scary now. I actually would not go down in there after one trip. I made it halfway down. I went back and I grabbed my sidearm and I wore it. And I didn't conceal carry, I open carry. A lot of people don't realize guns are deterrents. Most criminals, you don't want to have to be in a situation where you pull a gun, but they're deterrents. And what we're trying to find in our cyber world is more things that are deterrents to criminals that make them look and go, no, that's too much trouble. I want to mess with that. I want to go to the easy guy. And that's hard in our business because they're casting out such a large net. And what they do is they just prey on the people that fall into that net. And it could be hundreds, it could be thousands, but they're putting out millions of these in broadcast. And a lot of this is automated scripts. So a good example, I mean, when you look at how people are caught right now, you were talking about desktop and antivirus, it's still very important to have. But is it the primary way people are getting in? No, not at all, not even by a long shot. It can help you detect if you're using the right kind of stuff. And if you think, I love people come to me and say, yeah, I'm protected. I'm using LifeLock. LifeLock's been hacked half a dozen times already. And if you're paying them to do that, then you're just throwing money away. It's that has nothing. Or these companies that tell you they can take your information off the dark web. Well, if that was possible, everybody would be doing it. As a professional cybersecurity expert, you're not going to have, if a company's telling you they can remove your stuff off the web, that's BS. What you have to understand is what they have, and if you've got a cell phone in this country, they have everything. They have your phone number, they have your cell number, they have your addresses, they have your credit cards. So the question is, how are they using that information against you? And that's what you have to understand, because that's where people are getting caught. They don't know how to exercise like zero trust.
You know, I had this general conversation in a board meeting in the community. And I guess most business people, if not all, are aware of this recent act that went into effect, supposedly go into effect January 1st of this year, but it got pushed off, where the owners of businesses have to register basic information.
Yeah. Yep.
And I had some pushback from members of the board who were older and said, well, and I just looked at them. I just looked at them and said, your information is already out there, your phone number, your driver's license number. This is not going to make you more vulnerable, because I believe that. I believe it's been swept up somewhere. And then I got everybody on board, because they thought for just a second, and they said, you know, you're probably right. With all of what goes on constantly, they're going to sweep your information up, and it's going to be posted, whether it's on the dark web or the bulletin board, it's going to be out there.
As a company, we went ahead and did that, even though it got suspended. We just did it. The question, that's more of a government oversight kind of thing than it is having to do with, what's out on the necessarily on the black market. Most people where we're seeing a lot of rises in businesses that have compliance or HIPAA, PII, that's personal information. Those are the people that are getting hit and targeted the hardest, and that's because you have something to lose other than the information itself. People don't realize that's a double-edged sword, because what they're doing is they're not just locking you out of your information, they're stealing it, and they're threatening to sell it or release it, which becomes, now you have a compliance nightmare on your hand. And I'll give you a really easy example, realtors, okay? Realtors are some of the highest risk in cybersecurity out there, because one, they carry years and years and years worth of personal information, contracts, wire route information, things for their clients. It's unencrypted. It's usually just sitting on a laptop, and then usually they're throwing it in the back of their car, the back seat. It's places they're easily stolen. What they don't realize is that is HIPAA protected information. That's $5,000 for every violation that's committed. If that information now becomes a second way for them to blackmail you, and they're going to get whatever they can. And paying a hacker doesn't necessarily mean they're out of your life. If you do get hit and you do pay to get it back, 9 times out of 10, well, it's not 9 times. Actually, the average is 62%. 62% of these people have a reoccurring incident, because they now know you pay. It's like giving the guy it's like giving the gangster on your block a kickback. Now he knows you pay. Now he's going to come back, collect some more, and collect some more, and collect some more.
In the law enforcement world, I was taught fairly early on that if you get burglarized, your home, your residence, wherever you are, if they're successful and steal something of value, that the chances of you being hit again are astronomical. And I had a policeman explain it to me one time. He says, yeah, the guy that did your home gets arrested, gets put in jail. They got nothing to do all day, so they talk about where the easy deals are and share that information with the guy sitting next to him. So the guy that breaks in the next time, probably not the guy that did it the first time, but it's someone else that he just happened to come across.
It doesn't
and that's
help.
the same thing in the cyber world.
And it doesn't help that we have a lot, for the last 4 years, we had a lot of soft on crime policies too. So basically these people can get out and just commit the same crimes over and over again without any real repercussion to what they're doing.
Yeah, it really does. And there's such similarities in a general sense.
Yes.
In so many areas. In cybersecurity, it's the same thing. And what trends, kind of dig down just for a second, you've already mentioned a couple things. Mm-hmm. The trends in the current world, say for 2025, what are 1 or 2 things that you see that small businesses really need to wake up to?
They need to wake up to we come across two types. You come across the people that have already been hit, and they're getting hit once, twice, multiple times, and they just don't know how to get these people out of their lives. The other people we get are I've never needed cyber. I've been in business 20 years. I've never been hit, never been bought. I don't need cyber. Well, that's really not the kind of thinking we need. Those are the people that usually make the easiest targets. Let's just say this is a cheaper problem to prevent than it is to deal with after the fact. It's kind of like, trying to put together the plane after it's crashed and on the ground and on fire in a million pieces. Your likelihood of doing that is slim to none. The number two ways, there's two ways that are the top that people get in, and it's phishing and credentials theft through phishing. All right. I just want to take a minute and talk about how they're using the information against us. The question isn't whether they have it. If you've had an AT&T, a Verizon account, an Xfinity account, any kind of account with a national or even a bank account with a major bank, your information's already out there, okay? Right. Multiple times.
Just like I told my board.
It's not about what they have. It's how are they using it against you, and being aware of that so you have to learn how to exercise. I talked about good habits. Everybody, I've never had and knock on wood, okay, I've never had an incident where my identity's been stolen, my credit card's been stolen, anything like that. And it has to do with just exercising good practices and understanding and exercising zero trust and understanding how they use it against you. Don't trust texts. They're using texts and a combination of AI now. So they know your numbers. They know who you bank with, okay? So they're using texts and pausing as fraud notification. And they send you a number and say, hey, we noticed this transactions on your account. Are these legitimate? Of course, they're not, because they're made up. You call the number on your thing, and you are talking what you think is your bank. You are talking to hackers. They know your social. They know your information. They're able to verify where you live and a lot of all that same information. So they're using that information they have against you to create trust. This is most people's biggest problem, is that they trust too many people with information that they don't know who they are and can easily be posed. Even a number that appears on your text as a link, that is what you're looking at. But what really it connects to, the phone number or the link that connects to, is not always what's represented on the screen. And this is people's biggest problem. You cannot trust what you see. If something comes to you via email, text, phone, and you don't know and it's notifying you of something like this that requires you to authenticate or log into a service, do not trust it. Go to the source. Don't respond to anything within that communication. If your bank is go call your bank. Go to your bank. Ask them, hey, I'm getting these. They're going to tell you whether they're real or not. But don't trust the communication, and that's the problem. We had a big thing, and you've seen it in the news, where the communication that the providers have just realized that the Chinese have been in the communications networks for the last 3 years. So now they're telling us not to trust texts. Well, guess what? Almost all of us use our phones to authenticate what's called multi-factor authentication. Now we're being told we can't. That's even harder to trust, that you have to use your apps like Microsoft Authenticator and Google Authenticator and to trust those. But even those can be compromised through man-in-the-middle attacks if you're not careful.
Yeah. See, and it's almost a world where there's nowhere to hide. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break now. Give Robert a break. He's been putting out a lot of wonderful information. I hope you're taking notes if possible, or at least recording the show today. And a reminder to you that the show is currently being broadcast on Facebook, and you just need to go to the Weekly Business Hour page on Facebook and YouTube, either one. And if you click on it, then you can watch as well as listen to us. And in the next 2-3 days, by Wednesday of this week, a copy of this entire show will be available to you with a link that hopefully you can trust. So please stay with us. We'll be right back with you.
A Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show, with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776. to take your first step into the radio world.
From the beginning, the main purpose of the Cooperative Extension Service has been to change human behavior by teaching people how to apply the results of scientific research. By utilizing a holistic, multi-level approach, Extension family and community health programs encourage health and well-being for everyone. Addressing values, concerns, and needs with reliable science-based information, Extension programs help people lead healthier lives. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you again for listening to the Weekly Business Hour. If you've got a question about the show or you've got a business issue in your own business, please consider sending me an email. I'm easy to reach, just Rick, R-I-C-K, at irlonestar.com. That's Rick at irlonestar.com. And if you're a regular listener of the show, you know that we have mailbag segments from time to time where we'll take your question, your issue, and we'll talk about it on the air. So I appreciate it, and I respond to each and every one of those emails, hopefully giving you information or direction that you can use to meet the challenges we all face in our businesses every day. Well, we're visiting with Robert here about cybersecurity, and boy, I tell you already, I'm shifting around in my seat and it's making me nervous, and I want to go home and climb under the covers. You know, it's Monday morning. But Robert, one of the things that I'd like you to talk about, because I think it's another perspective, is your company offers services. So yes, just briefly kind of walk, because that will tell me what's going on to understand what businesses are available and what they're doing. So tell us about your company and what your services that you offer to small business.
Well, we are a managed services company, but I don't like to really term it that way. We're more managed. We're a fully managed cybersecurity company, and we do manage networks and devices as a result of that, because you can't do cybersecurity without managing the endpoints or the people. You got to do both of those things, and I'll kind of explain that in just a second. But you can throw a stick and hit an IT company within probably a dozen of them. Just even right here in Conroe, you could probably find 5 or 6 small guys. The problem is most people are so busy running their business that they're really just doing, they're going through the exercise they've always done. And would it surprise you that the average managed service provider spends $1 or less on your cybersecurity per device? That's the average. That's a national average, and I'm not picking anything. That's if they're paying for anything like Bitdefender or ESET or any of the commercial stuff that's available out there that's retail. So, for instance, our solutions were a little bit different. We have what's called a security stack. We use SentinelOne, which is the #1 cybersecurity product in the enterprise market space, the same stuff the government is now using in the military installations. It is a full-out what we call an XDR product. It monitors the network, the machine, the user. It monitors everything. We use that in conjunction with another service that monitors, it integrates cloud to cloud with Google and Microsoft, and it does real-time monitoring of your actual logins. And so, for instance, I had a flag come across one of our security team. I was unaware he was traveling in Japan. And I got a notice an hour before coming on the show that his account, his name is Ben, his account had a login from Japan. So, of course, I'm texting his supervisor going, hey, we just got a login on the system from Japan on Ben's account, and Ben is one of our administrators. He goes, oh, that's okay. Ben's traveling for school right now. He's in Japan. I said, oh, thank God. So, these are things we know about as they're happening in real time, and especially within our own company. But we're monitoring this stuff 24/7 for our clients. So if we see logins that are not typical, like you're mostly in Houston and around this area, and we see common locations that are happening, but all of a sudden we get a login from Tennessee, you're going to get a notice from us saying, "Hey, we got a suspicious login from Tennessee. Is this you?" Now you may be on vacation. You may just not. Most people don't tell us what they're doing. We just find out about it as we get these notifications. And, oh, yeah, I'm in Nashville this week. And that's where we saw the login from. No problem. We'll white flag that, and there's no problem. But if you're not, no, I'm in Houston right now, we can then shut down your account, isolate it, have you change all your credentials, and stop that from happening in real time. We actually defended against a very serious attack from mainland China that actually affected even the phones. It installed a man-in-the-middle attack on the phones, and we detected and isolated it within 10 minutes. And for us, we're not a big company, we're not IBM, but we use the same technologies they do, and we're one of a few companies that decided to go out and talk to these people like SentinelOne and say, listen, we recognize this is the technology. Our company wants to bring it to the micro and small business space. How do we do that? And that's what we facilitated over the last few years. And so we don't care if you're a home-based business. We don't care if you got people spread out all over. It really doesn't matter. We can actually provide that resilient, what we call hacker-proof or persistent cloud-based backups to your entire system. So we exercise the whole scope. AIO stands for all-in-one. That means we do everything related to securing and managing your business, so you don't have to go to 5 different places to do it, and we do it at a very affordable level. So that's the concept for our business, and we are a veteran-owned and operated business.
So what makes your business, so I understand, stand out in the market if I'm out shopping or whatever, is the fact that you are able to harness the power that would be typically obvious at the enterprise level.
Absolutely.
And then bring it down to the small business level.
Absolutely. And we are able to do that at a cost that's affordable to a small business to afford without breaking the bank. The other thing that's really big in that is that you're dealing with people that have got great service background. Our CEO, Kirby Atwood, he was 20 years in Navy intelligence, CIA. We have our CISO, what's called, that stands for Chief Information Security Officer. He's former Navy intelligence, or not Navy. I'm sorry, he's Army intelligence. I'm a former Navy man, so yeah. There is a difference, but nonetheless, we have people working in information security at a military level, and our COO is a former senior vice president of Verizon. So we got a great leadership team. They know how to manage businesses. They know what service means, and we treat every client, regardless of whether you're one person or 200, the same way. They're all over the board, but right now we actively guard somewhere around 5,500 endpoints nationally. We don't really care where you're located at. I know we're talking to people in Conroe, but maybe you got a business that it's got people everywhere. We can handle that and do it no matter what.
Well, and the thing you have, and I remember the experiences we had when we started the IT service company some years ago, was we had clients who had people that traveled. I mean, part of the deal, salespeople went to South America, or they went to Russia, or they went. So you had in those days there wasn't so much of a focus on protecting. It was on connecting, communication. In other words, if I'm in Russia, how can I communicate with the home office via my computer? Believe it or not, that's how simple it was. Now today, just kind of take out your crystal ball, because everybody has one. A lot of people hide them. But you obviously have a great background, experience, knowledge. In the next 5 years, what do you see changing, if anything, in this cybersecurity type world?
It's not going to get any better in the way they're infiltrating right now. That's why we have to really focus on educating people to understand how they're getting to us and exercise zero trust. The other thing they have to be aware of is and this was funny because I'm not a fan of Christopher Wray, but he was on there today talking about how our biggest adversary right now on the intelligence side and threat-wise is China, and not in the way you would think. A lot of people don't realize, growing up, we were in that Cold War with the East, with Russia, and it was very visible. You heard about it, you knew about it. We are in a different kind of Cold War, and we've been in an active threat campaign or war, as you say, with China for actually years. Same thing with North Korea and many other actors in that area. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they are actively attacking everything from our infrastructure, like our electrical grid and things like that, our water, and they're also going after us and our financial side. You remember, I'm going to say about a year ago, AT&T had a big outage on the East Coast where it took out about almost all their cell coverage went down. A lot of people don't realize that AT&T is the company that provides all our first responder networks. That attack that took out some of the cellular network for mainstream people wasn't because of our regular network being attacked. It was because they were testing out an attack on the first responder grid and actually took it down. So think about that for a minute and how that goes. You're going to see them become a little more bold. We need to become more aware of the devices we buy and put in our homes and where they're built. We were kind of having that discussion earlier. USB cords are almost, I would say, more than 50% of the USB cord stock is infected with chips. And love to do a segment on that sometime or talk about it when you have a chance. But if you just go on like YouTube and just put in the term hacked USB cords, and you'll find out how to determine between a hacked and an unhacked cord. And the problem is that there's about 50% of the cords out there are hacked because they all come from China. These chips used to be expensive, and the NSA produced them for a long time at great cost. But of course, that stuff's been technology's been stolen and replicated, and now it's you find it on your average cord that costs $1.50.
Well, you mentioned that, and that's one of the things that drives all this is the tools have become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And it used to be, I think, 5-10 years ago, the big thing was, well, anybody can go on the dark web or the web, and they can buy this software and then use it to hack. But we're way beyond that.
You don't even have to buy it; they give it away. You can go to Black Hat and get a copy of it in Las Vegas if you want to, every year.
But see, I mean, the big guys, the governments, depending on how smart they are, have thousands of people in many cases that are working on new methods, new ways to, and that's what I think that our business customers, clients, small business owners, they need to really be aware of it. For years, part of my philosophy that I would try to teach or mentor with small businesses is what I did was the idea that you can look at the big corporations, you can read about their success, marketing, whatever it might be, and usually there's a way to take what they've done successfully and distill it down and make it work in a similar fashion for your own business. And a lot of people say, I'd show them a few examples. In this case, this cybersecurity, I think it's a critical issue. It's not like a marketing campaign or where I buy my supplies. This is life and death for a lot of people.
There's two things that people have to understand. One, it is preventable, okay? And the second thing is it has to involve, whatever you do, it has to involve people and monitoring. If you are not watching what's happening in real time, then you can't catch the thief at the door. And that's the problem. If the thief gets past the door and gets into the house and finds a place to hide, you're in trouble. And they hide in there, not for weeks, months. We had an incident in one of the colleges. I'm not going to name it because we're under NDA for it, but one of the colleges downtown, and they got breached last April. Okay, and the reason they got breached was because the company they hired, it was detected. They were notified. The company failed to act on the notification in a timely manner. They just totally didn't respond to it. They didn't even see it. And as a result, a hacker got in, and it was actually detected by the police department, of all things, who was in the video server, and the video server for the police department, campus police department, got locked out. That's how it was discovered. It was discovered by the local on-campus police by accident.
Yeah.
And then it was dealt with before there was any loss or critical problem. But what's funny is that if that company was doing their job, that whole thing could have been prevented. They had to close down and isolate the computer system for the campus for a couple of weeks. That's money. That's inconvenience of students.
Huge setback too.
Yeah, and then you got to wonder how bad did they get. Then you got to pay somebody to go in there and look and dig and figure it out and verify it, because right now it's required federal law. You got to report any kind of break-in to the FBI within 48 hours. Yeah, so I mean, you don't, and if they find you haven't prepared properly, you're the one that's at blame. And so if you think you got cyber insurance going to pay for that, if they come back and say, yeah, they didn't even have a cyber response plan, Most people don't even know what that is. Yeah, do you have a cyber response plan for your company? No, I don't know what that is. Well, we write those. Those are the things that basically document what happens when, what we do on our side to do it, and what our responsibilities are. And if you have one of those are the things that keep you out of trouble with the FBI if it happens.
Yeah, if nothing else. Well, Robert, we need to take our final break of the day.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take this final break today. I hope you'll stay with us. And then we're going to come back and kind of wrap up the show and talk a little bit, a little different angle on cybersecurity. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back.
Don't miss Lone Star Community Radio on TV and YouTube. Our talk show and music shows are featured on Our City TV, Suddenlink Channel 12, and have their own YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to keep up with posted shows and comment on them below the video.
What is homelessness? Have you seen parents struggle to find a job without having transportation or childcare? What about the children sleeping in cars with nothing to eat? Families shouldn't have to struggle to survive, and children should not be homeless. Family Promise of Montgomery County serves the needs of homeless families and their children. Learn about ways you can help and learn about partnership opportunities at www.familypromiseofmc.org or call our day center at 936-441-8778.
Did you know there are more than 790 abused and neglected children currently in foster care in Montgomery County? Will you help make a difference? I'm Allie Stevens with Casa Child Advocates of Montgomery County. We train and support volunteers to be the voice of children in the foster care system. Kids removed from their home because of abuse and neglect, and we need volunteers just like you to advocate for these children. To learn more about becoming an advocate, please visit CasaSpeaksForKids.com. That's CasaSpeaksForKids.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and we're here talking with Robert with AIO Integrators. Hopefully, if you've listened to the entire program, you've learned a whole lot. I know I have, and I kind of follow the subject as I was in that industry in one of the businesses that I owned way back when. So lots of changes, lots of information, and as a small business owner or individual, you might say it's really hard to keep up with. You know, Robert, the other day, you and I were at a luncheon and we were visiting, and they had just published for consumption what happened recently at the Port of Houston, where they had been hacked, and the company that was their guardian angel, so to speak, notified them immediately. But the person on the ground at the port looked at it because they're getting, I assume, all kinds of threats or potential threats all day long. But they made a decision, right, wrong, or indifferent, that was not a threat to the company, when in fact, and it was Chinese, according to what the article said, were getting deeper and deeper into their system as they spoke. And it was a timeline, and that they showed in within a matter of hours. In fact, they walked away. I'm talking about the hackers for 2 or 3 hours, which is one of their techniques to kind of take the heat off, and then people stop looking. They stop. And it took a second notice on an additional issue that popped up at the service provider to really get the attention of the on-site employee who was responsible, and they caught it. It said they unplugged the server that was being affected, and immediately within 10 minutes had it all done. But that's that human element popping back up, and I'm not trying to slight anybody. The only thing that was funny is that, and I think I shared this with you, in the article, they said what the guy did on site was that he got the alert, timely made by the provider. He looked at it and judged that it wasn't a threat, and then he went to Whataburger. So that's what it said. We knew exactly where and I stopped. I said, they printed that, right? So anyway, Whataburger got some free advertising, good or bad. So that shows you the interaction of the human being element, which is every day, thousands of times. We ultimately, as human beings, have to make the decisions. The machine doesn't do it. I know one of the areas, though, that you and your firm have been real involved in is education. And I'm talking about the schools and whatnot that are out there who all, as far as I know, have pretty much adopted computers. They give laptops to the students. They don't give tests anymore on paper. It's on a, it's all about trying to, I guess, educate the kids on how to use the computing systems and networks.
And I'm a big believer in that because I have teachers in my family, and they are extremely overworked. They demand a lot of their time.
So on the downside, right, what we've been talking about all day is now you pour thousands and thousands of endpoints, the server, the infrastructure, and all of a sudden, guess what? You're going to attract bad people.
Well, the good news is a lot of the schools are exercising and using Chromebooks as opposed to Windows or Mac, and I'm happy about that because Chromebook is more Linux-based. It's a little more secure. It's not perfect. There's no such thing as an immune OS anymore. We consider to be most malware to be what we call operating system agnostic, which means it works on everything.
Right.
But there's a lot less to jeopardize on a Chromebook than there is on any other device. It is a risk. And one of the big things, I know we were talking about education, but just before coming back on, but the bigger risk is what's actually in what the schools store about our children, their histories, their immune records, their educational records, where they've lived. They're a honeypot of information. It's the gold standard of information for a hacker. Everything is in one place: social security numbers, everything about that kid. And what happens is that the schools are grossly, let's just say in my book, what I would put in and what we recommend, because I consult with a few districts, they don't do nearly enough. And what's happening is the sports departments are stealing the funds that are allocated for those things because sports is higher priority. Their NFL's looking at some of our players, and so we got to have new uniforms, and we got to have bigger stadiums, and all these things are great, but they're actually stealing allocated funds from within the district that is meant for cybersecurity, and it's not the IT guys' fault. The IT guys want to do better. You think they want these guys in their networks? They don't. And a lot of it is you have administration are their own worst nightmares. And so these administration people not understanding the risk to their people and what it is they're after and what the true value is the information that's stored in the schools. And then they're using that in combination with social media, what they can gather. They target these kids on social media, Facebook, other things, and they're using that information to basically undermine our kids before they even get a foothold. These people are 10 years ahead of us in their thinking. They're building databases on our kids already, okay? They're taking what they learned from the schools. They're going using social media as tools. As a parent, so I'm a parent and a grandparent. Most of my kids are in their 30s now, but two of them teach. And one of the things we see in Facebook and social media is you see these messages go across, and what they do is they start up accounts looking like another kid, a peer, okay? Imitate somebody's account that's in their friend network. They find somebody's got a lot of friends. And they basically put out questions like they'll put out a very short text or a message that says, oh, hey, just for fun, what year were you born? Where was your first? Where did you go to school first? What's your pet's name? They start asking a combination of questions. Some are innocent. Others are the same as bank and financial security questions. So they're taking this stuff and they're recording this stuff. Kids are responding to this and chaining it and they're creating chains where it's just literally hundreds of people have responded to it, and they're tracking this stuff. If you're a programmer, this stuff's very easy to use AI to sort and associate with people. And so they're building these databases, and what happens is when these kids get out there and they actually start having a life and they start building something of financial value, they're already owned. They already know how to get in. They know the answer to the security questions. Parents have to be aware this stuff is happening. We're also seeing another form happen, and this is something that I think I just told you earlier, and I'll try to be quick because I know we're limited by time. Last year, a big case came in Michigan where we saw a high school teen who had a fresh ride to college for football. He was targeted by hackers through Snapchat. Hackers posing to be a young girl, his age, got him to send inappropriate pictures of himself. He did so, and they, of course, came back and they ransomed him for $1,000. He sent in $300, couldn't afford any more, and as a result, the hackers really hounded him. I mean, very hard. And the kid said, "Listen, I can't do this. This can't come out." They were threatening to release the information to his family, his friends, his school. He said, "I'll lose my ride." He said, "You're going to ruin my life." And the hackers really, the FBI had attained this. Basically, the hacker said, "Go ahead. You're going to wish we were dead by the time you're done with you." The kid took his own life a day later. Now, the parents had no idea this was even happening because in my book, I believe the parents have some plausibility to this. We have to be better. We have to be better digital parents. In our day, you and I growing up, we went to our friend's family, right? We got out, we go out, the sun's out, go play, go to your friend's house. We went to the mall, we did things outside. But it was understood we had to be home at a certain time. Our parents knew our friends' parents, okay? And if we didn't come, we were supposed to be, we got our butts kicked. I mean, that's what it was. Nowadays, they have these phones, and half the friends in these phones aren't who they say they are. And they have no way of telling, and the parents are too busy worried about being a friend to their kid as opposed to being a parent. Be better digital parents. We do offer a free course on our website that teaches parents how to be a better digital parent. We make them aware of digital parenting tools so they can keep track of their kids, who they're talking to. So those kind of things don't happen because even though the FBI caught these hackers and charged them with murder, it doesn't bring back their child.
Right.
It doesn't stop the loss. And that's what we would want to teach people is how to prevent the loss.
Well, unfortunately, I think that's only one case that I've
7,000 documented cases in 2023.
That kind of thing happening,
Yep.
and it's unnecessary.
And that's what we know about. That's what's reported.
You know, it's funny you have to stop a second and digress, and we're about out of time. But the parental thing is huge. I agree with you 100%. Our youngest daughter has 4 children. And 3 girls, 1 boy. The boy's 14, and he's super inquisitive, right? What you want, kids who are inquisitive. And so he has a laptop that the school made available to him. Mm-hmm. He doesn't even have the login. His mother has to log him in. She set it up. At least I know when he's on the computer, because he has to come, see me, find me, and I log it in, and then he goes off. Doesn't mean he doesn't sneak around, but you're a certain amount of control, that kind of thing. So at least she feels a little more comfortable that she's being proactive. But you and I both know there are lots of other things to do. And I 100% agree with you. After raising 6 kids, and computers were just starting to be used in schools when the oldest were in elementary. And almost immediately you saw issues and problems. And today it just blows up. The thing long-term, Robert, that concerns me, maybe we kind of wrap the thing up today in a quick discussion, is when I read about China, and in China they're just embedded in your life. You don't have a choice. It's all up front. You know what's going on. To the point that if you do something wrong, break the rules, break the law, whatever it might be, they go into your account that the government has, and they control whether you can travel. As you walk through the city, they're taking a picture of you every time you cross the street, and they know where you are. I mean, they've got millions of people, but they have been able to pull that information, at least in their large cities, and we both know that'll spread, particularly places like Tibet and other places they're trying to control. So the ultimate end game is all about control. And it's scary because it's being done right now in a country doesn't have freedom. And can you imagine? I mean, that is true.
Who do you think makes 90% of our electronics?
That's 1984 all over. Read the book.
Yeah, it is. And what's really scary is the country you're describing is what makes 90% of the electronics that people consume in this country. And that you got to question. I was having a conversation with somebody about the value of TVs. Why TVs are so cheap. I bought an 86-inch TV for $1,000, and I love it. But at the same time, he was telling me, the average manufacturer, it doesn't matter what they sell the TV for, they're being paid by the information brokers. They put those smart TVs track what you watch, how long you watch it, what services you're using. So they get paid $2,200 to $2,300 per device that they sell in the back end. That's how they profit, because to siphon your data, your usage data through that device to the data brokers. Right. The data is the valuable part of what's going on in our lives. And most people don't realize that's where we're really being manipulated,
which is ultimately about control.
Exactly.
In the wrong hands.
Exactly.
Definitely. But when I think about that and I read those stories about how they can keep in China, you can't get on an airplane, they decide, or you can't get on a train, or you can't travel more than 100 miles. That just gets put into the system. They don't have to tell you or send you a letter or note. I'm sure they do send you an email and say, hey, you're restricted. But when you try to board that bus, can't have you on it.
They are trying to do a lot of those same things here, and luckily we have laws to protect us against things like that, and we have, you know, government and oversight. But it's amazing how much that can, depending on who's in those positions of power, how much agenda that can change. Looking forward to seeing some of that change over the next few years, but it is scary, and it is out there.
Yeah, and it could happen in a snap in this country or anywhere, depending on who's in charge, so to speak. So when I hear about control, that word is kind of a buzzword. I said, you know, what are you talking about, control? So, Robert, I can't thank you enough for taking time to join us today.
My pleasure.
And I've said it once, I'm going to say it again. You're welcome back. Anytime you have the urge to talk about a particular subject, just let us know, and we'll have you back on the show. If somebody wanted to follow up and get in touch with you, got a question, maybe looking for service that you provide, what's the best way for them to do it?
The best way would just be to look us up on the web. We have several URLs, but the easiest one to remember is just AIO for AIO support.net, and that is the easiest one to remember. Of course, you can use our name as well, AIOintegrations.com, but we own several. The one thing I did want to leave off with is just if anybody wants or desires cybersecurity education for their company, for your employees, because they're your front line of defense, I do that for free. I spend 50% of my time educating. We will come on site to your company or Zoom if you got them all over, and we will do a free education course for your business at no cost. And that's something we just do as a public service.
Well, I think that's a great opportunity, and I would encourage anyone who's listening to take advantage of that if possible, because it is about education. Okay, it is about education. And let me tell you, it's an education you got to keep up. It isn't a one-time get the degree and walk out the door, because it's always changing, folks.
That
no
is
doubt
true.
about it. Well, thank you again, Robert, for taking the time to join us today. Extremely educational to me and hopefully to our audience, and that they can take that information and do something with it, because that's what this radio show is all about, giving them information, education that they can put into practice and improve their business.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you, put it on your calendar now. Next week, 11 o'clock, we'll be back here on Monday, and would appreciate you joining us. Also, remember that a copy of the video podcast will be available by Wednesday of this week. It's available across social media. In particular, you can go to the Weekly Business Hour pages on Facebook, YouTube, and other resources, or even come right here to Lone Star Community Radio, their website, click on shows, morning, you'll see the Weekly Business Hour. So copies of past shows are available there as well. So thank you again for listening to us. And as I always tell people, to me this is so important, because we got lots of information out there, is until next week, do me a favor, stay engaged, and always, always keep your focus on what's important to your business. Thanks.